Lines flashing bright from the shadows, we arise with the truth in our hands under perilous skies. Every story told is a battle we fight. Through the darkness and the fear, we bring the light. In the chaos, in the flames, we'll stand tall, with the courage to reveal through the rise and the fall. From the embers of the war to the echoes of the call, we're the eyes of the world and we'll never stall. KLW, we're the warriors on the front lines. Through the blood and the fire, we'll define the times. In the heat of the battle, where the truth aligns, we're the voice of the war and the world will find. From the ruins and the wreckage, every story's told. Through the tears and the heartbreak, the bravery unfolds. In the darkest hours, when the world's torn apart, KLW brings the stories straight from the heart. With the cameras rolling through the wreckage and the pain, we capture the reality while the world remains. Every angle, every moment in the line of fire, we're the pulse of the battlefield, never to tire. KLW, we're the warriors on the front lines. Through the blood and the fire, we'll define the times. In the heat of the battle, where the truth aligns, we're the voice of the war and the world will find. KLW, we're the warriors on the front lines. Through the blood and the fire, we'll define the times. In the heat of the battle, where the truth aligns, we're the voice of the war and the world will find. Through the smoke and the ruins, we'll pierce the veil. With every breath we take and every tale, we're the heartbeat of the conflict in the shadowed frail. With KLW's vision, the truth won't fail. Stand firm, we're the beacon in the fray. Through the dust and the fury, we'll light the way. In the fight for the truth, where the heroes lay. KLW, the story's here to stay. KLW, we're the warriors on the front lines. Through the blood and the fire, we'll define the times. In the heat of the battle, where the truth aligns, we're the voice of the war and the world will find. So here's to the courage and the tales we unfold. In the heart of the conflict, our story's told. KLW, with the truth we hold. In the fire of the war, our legacy bold.
You can't handle the truth!
KLW World News coming to you live this evening with the news that matters. The biggest news of the day, well, as the month as well, that would be Operation Epic Fury. It's still underway and, well, it's getting bigger by the day. We've got a lot on that coming tonight. Start out with a brief from SOCOM.
Hi, I'm Admiral Brad Cooper, Commander of U.S. Central Command, here with my fifth update on Operation
correct.
Epic Fury. We're in the fourth week of the campaign and remain on plan or ahead of plan in achieving very clear military objectives for eliminating Iran's ability to project power in meaningful ways outside its borders. U.S. forces have struck more than 10,000 military targets. In fact, we hit the 10,000th Iranian target just hours ago. And if you combine what we've accomplished with the success of our Israeli ally, together we have struck thousands more, clearly demonstrating that we're stronger together. Our precision strikes have overwhelmed Iranian air defenses, and our combat flights over Iran are having tangible effects. Here are a few examples. For decades, Iranian warships have roamed regional waters, threatening and harassing global shipping. But those days are over because we've now destroyed 92% of the Iranian Navy's largest vessels. They are not sailing, and my operational assessment is that they've now lost the ability to meaningfully project naval power and influence around the region and around the world. As we've highlighted previously, Iran's drone and missile launch rates are down by more than 90%, meaning their ability to attack American forces and regional neighbors is drastically reduced. And not only have we significantly degraded Iran's naval, drone, and missile capabilities, we've also removed the regime's ability to rebuild them. Before Operation Epic Fury, Iran had large-scale manufacturing capacities to not only build naval vessels, missiles, and attack drones, but also to advance and proliferate these technologies to regional and global bad actors. Today, we've damaged or destroyed over 2/3 of Iran's missile, drone, and naval production facilities and shipyards, and we're not done yet. We are on a path to completely eliminate Iran's wider military manufacturing apparatus, which is why my operational assessment continues to be Iran's combat capability is declining as U.S. combat capability continues to increase. U.S. forces maintain air superiority over Iran's skies, having now flown over 10,000 combat flights. As I mentioned in my last update, refueling tankers are extending our reach, and fighters and bombers are delivering precise strikes against our primary objectives. Let me highlight our B-52 bomber force, which is executing a high volume of strikes into Iran and demonstrating our unmatched dominance in the air. Now in their 8th decade of flight, our B-52 bombers are executing strikes into Iran with up to 70,000 pounds of munitions on each mission. Our B-52 pilots and aircrew embody the courage and resilience of the more than 50,000 American sons and daughters serving in uniform during this operation. There is no adversary too determined, no mission too difficult, and no task too great for our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Guardians, and Coast Guardsmen. I just could not be prouder of our troops, and I know the American people share that same pride. Thanks so much. Godspeed.
All right, so there's a whole lot going on over in Iran, and we're going to give you a bunch of different perspectives on that this evening. The first one, though, is going to be from a young man in Iran.
President Donald Trump, I know you're not going to make a deal with the Islamic Republic, but in the off chance that you will, don't make the biggest mistake of your presidency. The Islamic Republic is at the weakest point it's ever been in. They have lost more than 80% of their military capacity. There are people from within waiting for you to get the job done. There are soldiers, police officers that are defecting to the people. I know you're not going to make a deal with the Islamic Republic. However, I just want to make sure that you don't make the biggest mistake of your presidency. You will go down as one of the greatest presidents ever. You will probably have a statue of yourself inside Tehran if you finish the job with the Islamic Republic once and for all.
The country
President
is currently
Donald
in
Trump.
an internet blackout. The Islamic regime has shut down the internet, effectively silencing the voice of 90 million Iranians. However, thanks to Elon Musk and Starlink, we are able to get a little bit of information. And that's where our news comes from, because, we as Iranians, we don't trust the Islamic regime media. We don't trust Islamic regime state TV. All they do is lie. It's all propaganda. We only trust our citizen journalists. And that's how we get real verified news. So that's how, we're getting some of the info to come out. I apologize. I forgot the second part of your question.
We were talking about the planned execution of young people who had taken part in the anti-regime demonstrations in January.
Of course. So that's absolutely horrific. But this just goes to show the Islamic regime is more afraid of the Iranian people than they are of the United States and Israel. The Islamic regime does not have the capability or strength to stand up to the United States and Israel, as we can see from the way that they have been completely devastated. The only thing that they can stand up to is the Iranian people, unarmed, innocent Iranians. And so the fact that they executed a number of, innocent young Iranians back on Friday is basically to demoralize the Iranian people. And we're actually seeing footage coming out today where the Islamic regime Basij, which is, the equivalent of modern day Gestapo, the Basij are going around and they're actually shooting into people's balconies. So even though Iranians are staying inside right now, they're chanting in the balconies, death to the Islamic regime. They're also chanting King Reza Pahlavi, which is, of course, acknowledgement that the only leader that we trust and support is His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince of Iran. They're being shot at. With respect to why Iranians haven't come out to the streets yet, there's a very simple reason for that. The United States, President Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu, CENTCOM, and of course, His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince of Iran, King Reza Pahlavi, have all said that now is not the time to come out. Iranians must stay inside. They must remain indoors because the military operation is still continuing. It's very dangerous right now for Iranians to come out. But what I can guarantee you is that as soon as the call is made by His Royal Highness, King Reza Pahlavi, Iranians will come out into the streets, and they will come out in even bigger numbers than what we saw back in January.
Now, folks, Trump talks about, well, who's going to be the leader? Who is the leader? I'm speaking with the leader of Iran. There is one leader of Iran. If you know anything about Iran, if you know anything about the Iranian people, there is already a leader in Iran. And that man is this man.
To all of our friends around the world, under the yoke of the Islamic Republic, Iran is identified in your minds with terrorism, extremism, and poverty. The real Iran is a different Iran, a beautiful, peace-loving, and flourishing Iran. It is the Iran that existed before the Islamic Republic, and it is the Iran that will rise again from its ashes the day the Islamic Republic falls. So let me be clear about how a free Iran will act towards its neighbors and the world after the fall of this regime. In security and foreign policy, Iran's nuclear military program will end. Support for terrorist groups will cease immediately. A free Iran will work with regional and global partners to confront terrorism, organized crime, drug trafficking, and extremist Islamism. Iran will act as a friend and a stabilizing force in the region, and it will be a responsible partner in global security. In diplomacy, relations with the United States will be normalized, and our friendship with America and her people will be restored. The State of Israel will be recognized immediately. We will pursue the expansion of the Abraham Accords into the Cyrus Accords, bringing together a free Iran, Israel, and the Arab world. A new chapter will begin, grounded in mutual recognition, sovereignty, and national interest. In energy, Iran holds some of the largest oil and gas reserves in the world. A free Iran will become a reliable energy supplier to the free world. Policymaking will be transparent. Iran's actions will be responsible. Prices will be predictable. In transparency and governance, Iran will adopt and enforce international standards. Money laundering will be confronted. Organized corruption will be dismantled. Public institutions will answer to the people. In the economy, Iran is one of the world's last great untapped markets. Our population is educated, modern, with a diaspora that connects it to the four corners of the world. A democratic Iran will open its economy to trade, investment, and innovation, and Iran will seek to invest in the world. Opportunity will replace isolation. This is not an abstract vision. It is a practical one, grounded in national interest, stability, and cooperation. To achieve this, now is the time to stand with the Iranian people. The fall of the Islamic Republic and the establishment of a secular, democratic government in Iran will not only restore dignity to my people, it will benefit the region and the world. A free Iran will be a force for peace, for prosperity, and for partnership.
Now, that is the son of the former Shah of Iran, and well, he should be the leader of the government because it was his throne to have prior to being overthrown by the radical Islamic regime. So we're hoping that, and it should be, anybody that does not think that that man should be the next leader of Iran doesn't know anything about Iran. So no matter what you hear out of the White House, no matter what you hear out of the State Department or anywhere else, the man you just saw on your screen rightly should be the next leader or is now the correct leader of Iran.
الرحمن الرحیم. قدرت راهبردی که از آن دم میزدید تبدیل به شکست راهبردی شده. مدعی ابرقدرتی دنیا اگر میتوانست از این مخمصه رها شود تا حالا شده بود. اسم شکستتان را توافق نگذارید. دوران وعده هایتان به سر رسیده. امروز در جهان دو جبهه وجود دارد، حق و باطل، و هر حق طلب آزاده‌ای تحت تأثیر امواج رسانه‌ای شما اغوا نمی شود. سطح خود درگیری هایتان به مرحله مذاکره خودتان با خودتان رسیده؟ نه خبری از سرمایه گذاری هایتان در منطقه خواهد بود و نه قیمت سابق انرژی و نفت را خواهید دید تا وقتی که بفهمید ثبات در منطقه توسط دست قدرتمند نیروهای مسلح ما تضمین می شود. ثبات از طریق قدرت. صراحتاً اعلام می کنیم تا موعدی که اراده ما نباشد هیچ وضعیتی به روال سابق بر نمی گردد. الرحمن الرحیم. قدرت راهبردی که از آن دم می زدید تبدیل به شکست راهبردی شده. مدعی ابرقدرتی دنیا اگر می توانست از این مخمصه رها شود تا حالا شده بود.
This guy talks. I know, I got it. This guy talks as though Iran is a big deal. So let me go back to where I was before. The Iranians claim that they're in charge of everything, that nothing has been destroyed, that everything in Iran is fine. The Americans and the Israelis have done nothing. Truth being known, more than 90% of Iran's capabilities have already been destroyed. They still had tens of thousands of missiles stored all over the country in hundreds, if not thousands, of underground bunkers. Actually, it's over 1,000, I would think. But the fact of the matter is that their capability has been significantly depreciated. Most of their stores have been detonated. Their magazines have been hit by our bunker busters and other precision munitions. Missile launchers have been destroyed, drone launchers, you name it, it's all being hit in Iran. And the Iranians, they don't even know what they don't have. Communications have been destroyed, facilities have been obliterated. Nobody answers the phone at a facility when the largest piece of the facility you can find is about this big. They're not picking up the phone there. They don't know it's gone. They haven't done an inventory. Stuff is blowing up faster than they can count it. So the Iranians don't have a clue, as far as the Islamic regime, don't have a clue as to what's going on. And can you trust the Islamic regime? Absolutely not. And I'm going to take you now to one of the most, if not the most, outspoken admiral in the history of the U.S. Navy, Admiral Lyons.
It was Erdogan, when he was Prime Minister of Turkey, who said it best. Islam is Islam. There are no modifiers. Democracy is the train we ride to our ultimate objective, which is to make Islam dominant throughout the world. He couldn't have said it any plainer. Islam is a totalitarian ideology bent on world domination masquerading as a religion. And I got to tell you, I reject the term radical Islam. That implies there's some moderate Islam. There ain't any, and you all know it, but you got to get the word out.
Brotherhood. Here's Saudi Arabia's foreign minister.
The Qataris allow their senior religious clerics to go on television and justify suicide bombings. That's not acceptable. We captured Al-Qaeda types coming into Saudi Arabia with Qatari passports. The Qataris know this. The Americans know this. The world knows this. The Qataris are funding dissidents in the Emirates and Bahrain and Saudi Arabia and in Kuwait in order to cause problems for those governments and to create instability. Unless you change, we're not going to deal with you.
So Musk showing up with Trump to host the Saudis was a huge blow to the Qatari lobby, so active here in D.C. This was also a thumb in the eye to the likes of Steve Bannon, who has taken an increasingly populist socialist bend lately, sided with Beijing and opposed Trump at nearly every foreign policy turn, while he's telling us he's protecting MAGA and telling liberal outlets Trump will be president in 2028 just to be.
Now, just so you know, Bannon is a socialist. If you don't know that, you need to do some research. Steve Bannon is a socialist.
Be sure everyone keeps attacking Trump. Bannon's socialism comes out by the day.
President Trump tonight should sign an executive order calling for the Defense Production Act to be called in SpaceX and seize SpaceX tonight before midnight.
Government should seize a private company? This was Bannon trying to slip back into Trump's good graces and hit Elon and Trump's relationship when it was down. But as of this week, Bannon is still on the outs. Musk is front and center. This is no accident. Notice how Trump hasn't addressed the infighting amongst MAGA over the issue of Israel and his foreign policy decisions. It's because Trump knew all along none of the division was real. And Musk, with the Saudis, was the prelude to exposing the China-Qatari op driving a wedge within MAGA. Right after this White House dinner with Musk and the Saudis, who hate Qatar, Musk added a new feature to X that just melted the internet. It unveiled where the accounts undermining Trump reside. And it goes beyond social media. Turns out the Qataris have been playing nice while undermining U.S. forces and ideas from within. The very next day, after Musk exposed the foreign ops infiltrating MAGA on X, Trump announced plans to designate the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. And as of today, the Brotherhood is a terrorist organization. I've said it for months. These influencers saying MAGA is dead and Trump is owned by Israel and I didn't vote for this crowd, they're either useful idiots or a foreign-led bot operation, or foreign nationals pretending to be American. They're based in countries like Pakistan, Indonesia, India, Qatar. And what do you know? The MAGA is dead and I didn't vote for this crew after this new feature on X. They've gone silent. But stop for a moment and take a giant step back. I've also said this Divide MAGA movement was part of a larger operation, one aligned with a refusal to condemn or criticize Islam. Divide the base, distract them, get a few of them to hate Islam's common enemy, Israel, and bingo, Zohran Mamdani is mayor and Sharia law is moving in on Texas, and China smiles at all of this. But we can't afford to get distracted. Radical Islam will be the end of America, so be very wary of anybody who tries to distract you from the fact that radical Islam is either predatory or parasitic.
I find that there are only two things which are open to our movements: ballot or bullet, nothing in between.
Radical Islam views music as haram, sinful and forbidden.
Listening to music is a major sin. نعم.
Because the Prophet cursed it.
لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم cursed it. He said صوتان ملعونان في الدنيا. Two sounds that are cursed in this worldly life.
Radical Islam views dogs as dirty and sinful to have around.
Yes, you should get rid of the dog. Generally, dogs, if they're used for security, then they are permissible. But to have them as a pet will not be permissible according to the Hanafi school of thought. So I would advise you find a way to get rid of the dog. Allah.
In Iran, the Shiite Muslims are making sure dogs are hung to death. Radical Islam views women as property, punishable by stoning.
There must be a hole dug in the earth, in the ground, and she must be covered up to half of the body, so that her scepter does not appear to her, that she's
Radical Islam commands followers to commit taqiyya, lie and deceive to spread Allah's words. Here is an ex-Muslim explaining it to modern audiences.
The lying is not always a sin in Islam. Being deceptive is good. And again, Allah is khayr al-makirin, He is the great deceiver. So you're allowed to be deceptive. God is not just good, He's also bad. So, and that's what I believe is happening in New York.
Really?
So,
you think Mom Donnie is practicing taqiyya?
1,000%.
When Christian nations welcome radical Muslims blast calls to prayer 5 times a day in public.
We're in Dearborn. This is the call of prayer that goes off 5 times a day here in the United States.
But Christians in radical Muslim nations are beheaded.
70 Christians have been found beheaded. Yes, beheaded. In a church in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
When Israel gives the Palestinians land and hopes for peace, radical Muslims set up schools training their children to kill Israelis. So, the next time the dividers inside MAGA scream that Israel is evil, that Elon Musk is the villain, and capitalism is optional, remember, they are merely handmaidens to the Islamic radicals, running rampant and gaining steam in the Western Hemisphere. Just remember, they want to destroy us.
Now, the Saudis, they're not thrilled with the Iranians. In fact, they've been hit a few times. And, well, now the Saudis are going from just saying that we want to be defensive to, well, maybe helping the Americans on the offense. Now, if that looks like U.S. military equipment, that's because it is. About 90% of what the Saudis are using is U.S. That's a round number, but a lot going on here. Now, also a lot going on over in Iran. The U.S. has been dropping precision ordnance on aircraft in Iran, and I love this hit. There's a spar that goes across from left to right through the wing of a aircraft, and if you hit that spar just right, both wingtips will hit the ground at the exact same time, And that's basically, it starts almost instantaneously after the impact. And so this is a prime example. So there you see the explosion, and you see both of the wingtips hit the ground at almost the exact, see there? They hit the ground at almost the exact same time. That's perfect. Now, that is an Iranian C-130, or was, and that's like a P-3 Orion. Now, this is the interesting part about this particular aircraft, and that is that this aircraft is an IL-76. That's a Russian aircraft, but not only is it a Russian-made aircraft, it is a Russian aircraft. Look at the tail on the back here. So that's white, blue, and red. This is a Russian IL-76 setting on the tarmac in Iran. It didn't survive. See the perfect timing on that? It just doesn't get any better than that. Just does not get any better than that. Now, speaking of delivering to Iran, how do I put this? I told you how many weeks ago that the 82nd Airborne was going to Iran? Who remembers that? Everybody remembers that, right? Who remembers me telling you that the 82nd Airborne was being deployed? Put it in the chat. Let's see if you remember. Okay, so some of you recall me telling you weeks ago, not days ago, that the 82nd Airborne was going to Iran. Now, the Marines are going there as well, but the question is, where are they going to go? Well, we're going to get into that now.
Chief National Correspondent Jennifer Griffin joins me now, reporting from Washington. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Martha. Fox News has learned the commander of the 82nd Airborne Division and his headquarters staff have been ordered to deploy to the Middle East, an indication that more ground troops could follow. Thousands of U.S. Marine reinforcements are set to cross into CENTCOM's area of operations in the Indian Ocean as soon as Friday, when one of two Marine expeditionary units arrive on board the USS Tripoli and its amphibious Ready Group. But of those 2,200 Marines, about 800 are infantry. The rest are support and logistics. For comparison, when the U.S. Marines stormed the beaches of Iwo Jima during World War II, it took 70,000 Marines and resulted in nearly 7,000 Americans killed and 20,000 wounded. Iwo Jima was 8 square miles. Karg Island is 12 square miles. There is also the issue of getting the 31st MEU, or Marine Expeditionary Unit, through the Strait of Hormuz, which remains in control of the IRGC and too dangerous to pass. President Trump indicated that he is willing to negotiate. The U.S. has struck over 9,000 targets in Iran, conducted 9,000 combat flights, and destroyed or damaged more than 140 Iranian vessels. Yesterday, the USS Gerald R. Ford, one of just 2 aircraft carrier strike groups that the U.S. has deployed to the Middle East, pulled into Suda Bay, Crete for repairs after a fire ripped through the laundry and sleeping quarters. 200 sailors were treated for smoke-related injuries. The Ford has been at sea since June, taking part in the Venezuela operation. The extended deployment, Martha, of the USS Ford with its 5,000 sailors and 75 warplanes could take it out of commission for over a year. Martha.
Jennifer, thank you very much. Jennifer Griffin reporting from Washington.
Be sure to like and subscribe.
Now, folks, somebody I watch that, well, you probably should too, and that's Ward Carroll. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the link to this video here in the chat. He was the Wizzo in the back of an F-14 back in the day, and weapon system operator. And They call him a EWO now, electronic warfare officer. It's same difference as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, Ward has his ideas on what's going to happen with the 82nd Airborne. I've got my ideas too, and we're going to do that for a members-only session that we're going to have with KLW World News members. But here's Ward Carroll and his thoughts.
A component of the U.S. Army's 82nd Airborne Division has been given a mobilization order, which is the step before a go order. 1,000 soldiers of the 1st Brigade Combat Team, the 82nd's Immediate Response Force, also known as the Ready Brigade, can deploy within 18 hours of getting the go order and could be airlifting aboard a conga line of C-17s from their base at Fort Bragg to the war zone any day now. Airborne divisions were deployed during the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. I embedded with the 101st Airborne as a journalist in 2010, but they mostly operated like regular infantry forces in those years, riding around in MRAPs and doing dismounted patrols. The last major U.S. Army combat jump was done on March 26, 2003, when 1,000 paratroopers from the 173rd Airborne Brigade jumped into Bashur Airfield in northern Iraq. Where this component of the 82nd Airborne might be positioned in the Middle East and how they might be employed in the Iran war effort is unclear, but they can be in place and ready to go in less than 2 days. These 1,000 paratroopers are in addition to the 2 U.S. Marine Corps amphibious ready groups that have also been ordered to join Epic Fury. The Tripoli ARG was last reported to be docked at the base on the island of Diego Garcia in the middle of the Indian Ocean, and the Boxer ARG is just over halfway to Hawaii after leaving its home port of San Diego 5 days ago, which was another short-notice deployment. All told, once the 82nd Airborne gets the go order and the Boxer arrives on station, which is roughly 2 weeks away, there will be approximately 6,000 boots to put on the ground. Whether that means the U.S. seizes Karg Island or secures the Iranian shoreline along the Strait of Hormuz or locks down nuclear sites in Iran is unknown. But their presence in theater gives CENTCOM tactical leverage Admiral Cooper otherwise wouldn't have. Meanwhile, President Trump has made several in-passing comments that the U.S. has already won the war and that, quote, Iran is begging to make a deal, end quote, something official Iranian sources vehemently deny. Reports suggest that Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, the team that has negotiated on behalf of the Trump administration in recent months, had a negotiation with someone allegedly authorized to broker deals on Iran's behalf, although it's unclear who that person was. Kushner and Witkoff reportedly handed the Iranian rep a 15-point peace plan that included a recommendation for a 30-day ceasefire and demands that Iran comply with the following terms: removal of all enriched uranium at Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordo, and a pledge not to pursue any nuclear weapons programs in the future. Drastically reduce all ballistic missile stockpiles in number and range capability, and the ability to fire them or manufacture them. Stop any support of regional proxy groups like Hezbollah and the Houthis. Allow maritime shipping traffic to flow through the Strait of Hormuz unhindered. In an attempt to prove these negotiations were valid, yesterday at the White House, President Trump said this.
They gave us a present, and the present arrived today. It was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not going to tell you what that present is, but it was a very significant prize. And they gave it to us, and they said they were going to give it, so that meant one thing to me: we're dealing with the right people.
Is that nuclear related?
No, it wasn't nuclear related. It was oil and gas related.
After that comment by President Trump, Lieutenant Colonel Ibrahim Zolfargari, a spokesman for Iran's Joint Military Command, said the U.S. was, quote, negotiating with itself, end quote, and he accused Trump of trying to, quote, dress up his defeat as an agreement, end quote. The Iranian Foreign Ministry and Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bakir Kalibaf repeated their assertion that there has been no direct or indirect contact with Trump at this point. They labeled his statements as fake news intended to manipulate oil and financial markets. In fact, the Iranian multi-point plan for the end of the war is almost 180 degrees out from the Trump plan. Specifically, the Iranian demands include ironclad and binding guarantees that the U.S. and Israel will not launch future military strikes. Full financial compensation from the U.S. and Israel for all damages and losses suffered during the conflict. Closure of all U.S. military bases across the Middle East, including those in Gulf states. A, quote, new legal regime, end quote, for the Strait of Hormuz, which would grant Iran formal control and the ability to collect passage fees, similar to the Suez Canal model, a removal of all international sanctions against Iran, and an end to all regional military operations by the U.S. and Israel, including those targeting Iranian proxy groups like Hezbollah. The Iranians have said they are willing to talk to the Americans through a Pakistani mediator, but they won't deal with Witkoff and Kushner. Instead, they've asked for Vice President J.D. Vance, who's expressed anti-Iranian war views as recently as 2024. Presumably, the Iranians believe that Vance will be more favorable to them, with whatever the terms might be to end the current hostilities and prevent them from happening again in the future. But regardless of who sits down with who on either side of the negotiating table, with whatever nation acting as mediator between them, the distance between these two going-in positions couldn't be wider at this point. And with more troops and equipment moving to the region, it looks like the war could get bigger before it draws down, not to mention ends altogether. All right, that'll do it for this quick report. We'll be back with more live streams and episodes as the situation...
Okay, so that's Ward Carroll. Again, I put his link in the chat. If you don't subscribe to him, you should. He puts out a lot of good videos. Now, speaking of putting out videos, well, this one may not be so good. It's actually bullshit. This is one of the so-called many tunnels that the Iranians have going back through the mountains. And we show you all of these tunnel entrances, and I'm going to slow this down a little bit here and play it back. And the reason for that is I want to get a better view. And so you can see all of these trucks. Now, the great part about it is they like to duplicate things. They'll have 3 or 4 different models, but there's going to be a lot in common. So you see the cab, the paint job across the front, see the flat deck duals on the back, and it's got a box up here that raises and lowers. Now, the cool part about this is that once a U.S. surveillance aircraft sees one of these trucks, once this truck has a unique radar signature, and that radar system can teach it to all of the other radar systems and say, this is one of these trucks. So you've got that model, then you've got this model. So here it raises up and rotates out of here. But you can pick this out going down the road. Once you know what one of these looks like, you can hit it with radar easy. And then you can smack them. So these are the different designs that the Iranians have. And what they do is they just drive them down to the coast and fire them. Well, that's pretty easy to spot the front of that truck. Looking at that going down the road with the box on the back, you know, and this is at a range. There's their tower there. They're firing out over the strait. And so this is how they intend to hold the Strait of Hormuz hostage, because they have these trucks with these missiles, 2 missiles per truck here. The thing is that we now have persistent surveillance capabilities. We looked at it the other night with, was it Gotham Stare or whatever it was. So we have the ability to see where these come from and track them back. And so finding their source and seeing them moving down the road is very, very easy to do with modern ISR. And look how long the bill on their hats are. It's absolutely insane. The Iranian hats, my God. But anyway, they claim that this is, you know, kilometers and kilometers and kilometers. To me, it looks like they're going around the same tunnel here a few times with the same trucks. Yeah, Rio, they've had multiple names over the years. So here's a variety of different trucks that they have. here's along the port, and you can see that jetty going out there. This was fired just south of their main port there, and we will see that here. Correct. The middle of that head has its own radar signature. So here's different trucks with drones in the back. You can see they have the launch sled there to get the drones airborne. And so you can, again, start to recognize the truck because they duplicate. So they've got several different designs and the roof that rolls back. And again, you'll be able to see this with the radar signature and know what it is right away. Who is OMG? Office of Management and Government? No, that's not who we're talking about. We're going to get to OMG in just a minute. So these are the different missiles that they have that they're firing. This is what we're demonstrating to you guys. Sure, they can geolocate it off the video. You don't need Spec Ops to wait. We can open any tunnel we want anytime with a variety of different weapons. Here's a prime example there. So just deliver that in and open that up. That's right, O'Keefe Media Group. Now, the interesting part is here with O'Keefe Media Group is we got two different interviews, both of which are, I believe, supposed to have been done today, but evidently not because he's not dressed identical. But notice the difference here in the two images. We're going to start out with this one down here first.
What you just watched, it's a 12-minute video, is I don't think anyone's ever captured this on video before. Maybe your audience can correct me if I'm wrong. But they're actually giving cash to homeless people tens of thousands of times. You see a couple dozen instances of it in this video. And they're telling the homeless to vote in the names of other registered voters. And it appears to be a coordinated conspiracy. We're trying to figure out who's behind this, but these are petitions, California ballot petitions. And you watch them give, what are $2, $3, $5 cash to the homeless on Skid Row. That's in downtown LA, worst area of Los Angeles. And they're taking advantage of the homeless who have no idea what it is that they're signing for petitions like tax the rich and petitions on Uber and other propositions in the state of California. So this is the first time I think if anyone's ever done this where you actually prove non-circumstantial evidence of a felony caught on camera in this video. This is the second installment. We're calling it the Justice League because it's not just me. It's Cam Higbee, Savannah Hernandez, Anthony Rubin. There's a number of brand new citizen journalists working alongside me, not working for me, Steve. And we're going to be releasing a tape every single day until somebody gets arrested.
James, didn't there was a altercation, I think Higbee and yourself, here's my point. It's quite dangerous what you're doing. People should understand there are thousands of homeless down there. This is very dangerous. This is a very dangerous. They've made downtown LA and parts around Santa Monica Free, all over Los Angeles with these folks that are down and out. But there's some bad hombres mixed in there and some dangerous people just psychologically on drugs, alcohol. Some people don't know what they're actually doing. What shocked me is how brazen the people sign them up and give them the money. It's like they're not. There's no fear of being caught. But I think weren't you guys in the other day that it got a little hot
we were
down
assaulted.
there?
Yeah, there's been two violent assaults. My producer got punched in the neck. I was standing a few feet away. There was some pepper spray deployed. That got into the eyes of my other colleague, and I had to run out of there. We had security, but there was a security lapse. And then Anthony Rubin, my colleague, was assaulted by one of these petitioners. So there's been two batteries against my team. It's a remarkable piece of video. There it is. It's playing right there for you. There it is. He's getting clocked in the neck. That's Andrew, my producer, on the street in LA. This is extremely dangerous. And you're right. It's happening in broad daylight. There's petitioners behind this. We have reason to believe there's gangs behind this. This is elections. By the way, just so your audience knows, it's a federal felony. The Department of Justice has jurisdiction. If you're paying someone to register to vote in a federal election, it's a federal felony. All the other crimes you see are state felonies. Voter impersonation on California petitions. Now, there has been a development, Steve. We've heard back from everybody. We've heard back from Governor Newsom. He did not attack us. He said they should arrest the people in the tape. We've heard back from the Los Angeles County District Attorney. They've opened up an inquiry. The California Secretary of State's office is working with me. They want to arrest someone. And the Los Angeles Police Department, we filed a police report. We've also heard back from the United States Attorney in California, a federal prosecutor named Bill Acelia, who works for Pam Bondi. There needs to be arrests. They need to arrest people. There needs to be accountability in this country. And my solution is I'm going to put a public pressure campaign so intense every day, each day, with an army of citizen journalists until somebody is arrested.
You say that you have people potentially flipping on the higher-ups. Who are the higher-ups? What does your gut tell you?
Well, right now, I have people in the field.
The money's coming from somewhere.
Yes, it is.
You know, and it's a lot of money. Even if it's $5 per signature to a homeless person, there's like suitcases of hundreds of thousands of dollars where the $5 comes from, right?
That's correct. You've got a huge audience. So if I say what it is right now, it might hurt my ability over the next few days to continue getting it. But
of course,
there's petitioners and there's coordinators, and it appears as though this is like organized crime. And the thing about organized crime is it's extremely dangerous. So you could have gangs involved in this. There are companies that do this, but they're criminal actions. So there's out-of-state people that come into California. They make a lot of money. And we've been given the names of those companies, and we're currently tracking them down. But yeah, James O'Keefe and Cam Higbee and Savannah Hernandez and Anthony Rubin and John Cho has a report out today. We are going to find the higher-ups and expose them. But I think the question we have to ask ourselves is, without accountability, what does it matter? What does it matter? If no one is held accountable, does bringing it to I guess the question for your audience is a rhetorical question. Is, do you want me to continue doing this? Do you want me to continue exposing it? Does it even matter? I mean, that's a rhetorical question. I'm not going to answer that. Because I can stop. I can give up. I can retire. But I'm not going to put my life in harm's way and my people's life, because they were almost killed, for nothing. It's not worth it. I think you would agree with that. So I can go away. I can be on a sabbatical until someone is arrested. But I'm not going to put my people's life in danger every week for nothing to happen. That's honest. I'm just being vulnerable and transparent with the world. I'm not going to get killed. I saw what happened to Charlie Kirk. I don't want to die. I need to stay on this earth to keep exposing the truth. So I can go on vacation. I can go away. And when y'all are going to arrest somebody, I'll come back. Because I'll tell you what, getting punched in the neck, having nobody get arrested, it's not right. It's immoral is what it is. And the Republicans are in power. The Attorney General of the United States has the jurisdiction to arrest someone tomorrow. I haven't seen any statements on the internet or on Fox News or anywhere else about this. And I frankly, I get there's egos involved, but I think it's a form of cowardice. I'm glad the president is talking about it. I think he should continue to talk about it. And I will continue to keep releasing videos this week. But I'm pissed off. And I'm pissed off because my friend and my closest colleague was violently assaulted and came an inch from we came an inch from losing our lives. Knives and guns there. And I need something to happen. I really need something to happen. Otherwise, I'm going to have to stop doing what I'm doing. And I don't know what else to say.
Do is stand for truth and keep that lodestar focused on the truth and not the sideshow and the latest thing. I'm going to show you this clip because it's probably one of the most important clips we've ever played in the 10 years or so we've been on the air. It's a shortened version of Yuri Bezmenov, who was a KGB Soviet Union defector to the United States, explaining this cult-like behavior and how both an ideology and a person, when they have the right delivery system, ideology, person, delivery system, ideology, person, delivery system. Once those three things combine, it is really, really hard to break people from the spell. Once they believe in these charismatic leaders and their crazy ideas, Butler didn't happen, all this other crazy stuff, it's very hard to break the fever. Here's Bezmenov describing how this propaganda campaign works. Check this out.
Demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. So basically, America is stuck with demoralization, and unless, even if you start right now, here, this minute, you start educating new generation of Americans, it will still take you 15 to 20 years to turn the tide of ideological perception of reality back to normalcy and patriotism.
Critical takeaways from that video. That video is magic because every single second of it is true. This is a big demoralization exercise. I've told you that. That's what blackpilling and dooming is. The president sucks, but he's just stupid. Everybody's screwing it up for him. The purpose is a demoralization exercise. Despite the facts that this has been probably the best year of any Republican presidency we've had in maybe 50 years. It doesn't matter. The facts don't matter. This is not an exercise in fact. It's an exercise in freaking demoralization using Soviet propaganda tactics that have been, sadly, tried and true. Bezmenov is correct. The Morton Downey Jr. moment does not happen until the communist boot kicks you in the balls and locks the gate behind you. It doesn't happen. These people will not wake up. I don't want you to think this is going to be an easy fight, but it's a necessary one. But it's going to take that boot Bezmenov talked about, and you don't know what that boot is. It was caught on camera saying, some thing that's absolutely crazy. I don't know. Maybe it shows like this because I have actual data. All of our opponents out there keep talking about data points. You got all these data points and all this other stuff, and they never produce actually data.
Now, speaking of data points, the government is collecting them on you. Not just through the internet, but through your cell phone.
Did you know that through the apps on your phone, government spies on us? You should worry about that, says privacy advocate Naomi Brockwell.
When you downloaded this app, you gave the app permission to access your camera.
In this previous video, Brockwell told me, I've foolishly given up my privacy to tech companies and the government.
You've probably given location permission, you've given microphone permission.
In that short video, I didn't have time to include some of her good points.
Let me have a look at your phone. I want to see what apps you have on your phone.
What she saw made her say,
if I were you, I would delete almost all of these apps. First of all, because
I like them.
I know you like them, but you're taking your phone around with you everywhere you go. It's an intensely personal device that sees where you're going. It sees every person that's in the room with you, every person you've connected with. It has a microphone, a camera.
What should I delete?
Right off the bat, Google Chrome. This is a terrible app for privacy. Google Chrome is notorious for just collecting every single thing that they can about you. Chrome is a browser, which means it's kind of like your gateway to the internet.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, you like having a gateway to the internet, but do you like all of that information being collected and then broadcast to thousands of different companies? Because Google is not really a search engine, the same way that we used to think of it as like Google, we can search the web. It's an advertising company. So Chrome is collecting every single thing that it can about you, and it is broadcasting that to thousands of people to see like who wants to bid on the opportunity to, be in front of this man here. Google is auctioning off your eyeballs, essentially, to advertisers. But it's not just advertisers who are collecting this information. There are thousands of shell companies, of shady companies, of data brokers who are also collecting it and in turn selling it. So the run-on effect from using something like Chrome is huge because it means that so many people then get access to your data. I would delete it. You don't need it. Something like Brave works way better.
Brave is a browser that's just as good and doesn't collect this information.
I would say it's better because it doesn't collect this information.
And it works a little bit faster because it doesn't deal with all the ads and the record keeping.
Exactly. Every time you load a web page, there's that split second before everything gets loaded, because there are these little empty boxes all over the screen, and Google's busy auctioning off those eyeballs to all of these people who want to fill the boxes. So there's lag time. There's bandwidth that gets taken up through this process. And with Brave, you can block all of this. It's fantastic.
What else?
We're sensing a pattern here, but Google Maps. I would delete Google Maps.
But I need Google Maps.
So you don't. You actually have an iPhone here, and you have Apple Maps on there. So Apple and Google both collect a lot of data, but
Sometimes one is better than the other. I like having both.
Well, Apple is way better when it comes to privacy. Google is tracking
But what's better at finding where I'm trying to go?
Well, Apple is actually, I say, on par with Google now. It didn't used to be. It used to be kind of bad. But in the last couple of years, it has...
So just have fewer of these.
Have fewer of them. But Apple actually goes out of its way to try to anonymize your data. It doesn't store in its databases your exact locations. It uses this technique called fuzzing.
Good. What else?
Oh, gosh. You've got Gmail on here. That's another. They're all Google.
But I use Gmail.
So I would stop using Gmail.
What should I use instead?
There are lots of more private email alternatives out there. Proton Mail is a great one. Tutanota is a great one. There are many others. The difference between them is that every email going into your inbox for Gmail is being analyzed, it's being scanned, it's being added to a profile about you. Google has a terrible track record.
As soon as you connect to the internet, Android uploads to Google a complete history of where you've been that day.
I've made videos about that and asked, is Google doing creepy things to us? The answer is yes. Google's former boss says.
There's what I call the creepy line, and the Google policy about a lot of these things is to get right up to the creepy line but not cross it.
Brockwell and others say Google does cross the creepy line. But nothing beats Google's convenience. It remembers my credit cards and my passwords. It fills things in automatically. So I don't go through torture like this.
Incorrect password. Is it a capital G or lowercase g? What is it?
There are ways to protect yourself from not losing passwords, and that's a whole other area we could discuss. But I do understand the trade-off between that. If you put your data outside the control of a company, you have to take responsibility for that data, and that is a trade-off. But I say it's absolutely worth it. Email is so personal. Email is private correspondence about everything in your life. And I think that we should be taking those private communications out of the reach of the companies that want to read them and use the companies that put that data outside of their own reach, that don't read our emails, that have actually made it technologically impossible for them to read our emails. And I think that using those services is also a vote for privacy, to tell the market, give a market signal that we think privacy is important. That's the only way we're going to get more privacy and for it to become easy.
The list of apps she says I should delete didn't stop at Google. There are many more.
Why do you need an app for Shell? Why do you need it? Why do you need this? You would go buy gas at a station, you need an app to somehow facilitate?
Yeah, I don't have to get out of the car. I press a button, it's all ready, It's easy.
So you do have to get out of the car because your fuel tank is accessible from the outside.
Right,
so what are you gaining from using this app?
somehow it's faster and easier.
It's not, John. Just put in a card. Just put in a card. We think that we need an app for every single interaction we do with the business, and we don't realize what we're giving up as a result. All we're being told are the upsides, the conveniences of this, and most people are oblivious to the fact that they're really undermining their privacy.
Rockwell showed me what my Shell app tracks on my phone. This long list is publicly visible on the App Store. I never bother to look at any of this stuff, but do they really need
your purchase history, your contact information, your physical address, your email address, your name, your phone number, your product interaction, purchase history, search history, user ID, product interaction, crash data, performance data, precise location, course location, the scrolling goes on. They're collecting so much information. The first step before downloading an app, take a look at their permissions.
Google and Shell? Any others there?
I would delete everything here. I don't think that you need an app for half of these things. You've got apps here. I'm not going to tell people what apps you've got on your device.
Tell them. I don't care.
No, you should care. I'm here to tell you why you should care about this stuff. You've got a New York City COVID app. Why do you need a New York City COVID app right now?
Because maybe there'll be a time again I have to prove I'm vaccinated to go to some store.
Great. And if that happens, think about downloading it. But before you do, look at the privacy implications of doing so.
All right, you can delete that.
I can delete an app. All right. Okay, remove app, delete app, delete. Oh, doesn't that feel good? It's like you have one less tracking device on your phone that you're carrying around with you. Doesn't that feel great?
The phone feels lighter already.
It feels lighter. The burden feels lighter. You feel like you have more freedom, less surveillance. This is a good feeling. I encourage you, if I'm going to give you homework, I encourage you, just go through and see what's an app that you haven't used in the last month, 3 months, 6 months. And you know what? Just delete it. And if you need it again, you can always re-add it, but with the awareness that doing so does degrade your privacy and put your data into more hands.
Another way to limit data from getting into more hands is to change the apps we use to communicate. Some of my friends now want to text via WhatsApp because it says it's encrypted.
WhatsApp is end-to-end encrypted and is going to be better than standard SMS. It's nowhere near as private as an app like Signal, which is an open source app that is really secure and is highly regarded by most security experts.
So it's secure or it's not secure?
And that's not nearly as secure as the KLW World News app. You can go to klwworldnews.com and get on to the KLW World News Network. Our encryption is AES 256-bit. Encrypted from end to end, as well as you have your own key. Each member does. All right, so that's going to do it for this news broadcast. I'm going to turn this into a War Watch overnight. We've got a lot going on over around Iran. We're going to talk more about this tomorrow. This was a strike on a Russian oil depot. This one here is near and dear to my heart because, well, it was on the top of my target list, and the fine folks in Ukraine hit it yesterday. So that's going to do it for me here tonight. I'll leave you with the video of the fires burning in Russia, but I'm going to put this together as a War Watch from here on out. So enjoy. Also, we will be doing a flight of the areas that I think the 82nd Airborne and the Marines will be going. But that's going to be for members only, probably. We're going to do something special with that. Also, yeah, people were asking how I'm feeling. So I've had an issue with a spot on my back. And last night, at about midnight, my wife removed something out of my back, so hopefully it's going to start feeling better. It is a little better today for the first time in almost a month. So I figure I've got another week or two of recovery from this. Hopefully I'll be back to myself and feel back to myself back then. I can't lean back on anything. So I have to sit up all the time, and it's been a little frustrating, painful, agonizing to try to do the news and so on and so forth. And some days I just haven't felt like doing anything other than laying in bed because it hurts so fucking bad. but it is starting to hurt a lot less. So thank you for asking. Hopefully, like I said, I'll be back to myself in the next couple of weeks. It's not so much that I like this shirt that I want to wear it every day. It's the fact that it's loose enough that it doesn't push on my back where my injury is. So it's comfortable. So it keeps my wife busy having to keep watch this. Anyway, so you may see me as a few more days before it's all over. Yeah, no, it's not an ivermectin issue. But anyway, so I'm feeling better. I'm going to probably go see the doctor in another week, let them take a look at it, and then go from there. So thanks for joining us here tonight. Again, if you have not joined the network yet, now's the time. Go to klwworldnews.com, get signed up there. If you just want to get notifications when we go live, that's easy. Go to buymeacoffee.com/KLW News. Get signed up there. It's just $10 a month. Yeah, sorry, Easy. I'm not going to get into your kinky news, buddy. No, it's not shingles. It's a single spot like a boil. So anyway, with that, we're going to call it a good night. Enjoy.
Ну, там горит порт, никого не пропускают дальше. Вот до этого перекрестка и все. Там гаишники стоят. Туда дальше не дают проехать. Короче, такая тут ситуация. Все стоят. Сказали, могут простоять.
One thing I did want to mention, we had they could say it was a P-8, but it wasn't. It was Black Cat 6 was flying down along the northern side of Venezuela today. And if you also didn't notice, there was a drug boat that was hit in Venezuela today.
До вечера. Ну, там горит порт.
Subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
As the war with Iran grinds on, the conversation in Washington is slowly shifting. Airstrikes have disrupted parts of Iran's missile and drone programs, but they haven't forced it to change course. That raises a familiar question in American wars. If air power is not enough, what comes next? Some officials have begun discussing the possibility of ground operations. Trump has repeatedly said he does not want to take options off the table. Meanwhile, the military posture is already shifting. 2 Marine expeditionary units have been dispatched to the Persian Gulf, giving the White House additional military options should the conflict continue to escalate. And yes, there's still room for this to spiral. But talking about ground operations and actually carrying them out are 2 very different things. America has several ways it could introduce troops into Iran, from small special forces operations to limited territorial seizures or, in the most extreme scenario, a full invasion. Yet each step in that direction introduces new military and political complications. In practice, the deeper the United States tries to push into Iran, the more difficult it would be to sustain the war. Because while America needs victory, Iran only needs tomorrow. We often think of connectivity as something constant, but the moment you cross a border, you're suddenly dealing with roaming fees, unreliable Wi-Fi, or the hassle of finding a local SIM card in an unfamiliar place. That's where today's sponsor comes in. Saily gives you mobile data in over 200 destinations without having to swap SIM cards or search for a provider when you arrive. They do this with an eSIM, a digital version of a SIM card that's already built into most modern phones. It works the same way as a regular SIM, but you don't need to put anything into your phone. Just download the Saily app on your phone, pick a plan for the country you're going to, and turn it on right before your flight. When you land, you'll already be connected. It's easy to set up, with affordable plans that help you avoid roaming fees. And if anything goes wrong, Saily has 24/7 support. They'll even give you a refund if your mobile phone doesn't support eSIM services for some reason. It's a simple solution to a problem most people only notice when it's already too late. Go to saily.com/Caspian Report, download the app, and use Caspian Report coupon code to get 15% off any of your chosen plans, or simply scan the QR code on screen to claim the discount instantly. If American forces were to enter Iran, the most practical starting point would be special operations missions. The reason is partly political. Special operations tend to give the White House far more flexibility than conventional wars. Congress rarely tries to restrict these missions, and their secrecy often shields the political brass from immediate public backlash. For instance, during his first term in 2019, Trump approved a covert mission inside North Korea aimed at planting a listening device to intercept communications during the nuclear negotiations. The operation fell apart after the team encountered a fishing boat and opened fire, killing several civilians and forcing the mission to abort. And yet, the incident remained secret for years and produced little political fallout once it surfaced. Episodes like that help explain why special operations remain attractive to policymakers, both politically and militarily. Elite units such as Navy SEALs, Delta Force, or the Green Berets are designed for precisely this type of work. They can deploy quickly, operate in small numbers, and avoid the massive logistical footprint needed for conventional armies. These teams could launch from aircraft carriers or enter the country through Iran's long coastline and mountainous borders. Once inside Iran, there is no shortage of possible targets. Perhaps the most pressing objective is securing the stockpile of highly enriched uranium. Iran is believed to possess around 400 kilograms of uranium enriched to roughly 60%. No one knows the precise location. It could be near the city of Isfahan, where much of the nuclear research takes place, or even deep underground in Pickaxe Mountain. A raid to seize or neutralize that material could set back Iran's nuclear program. But there is a problem. The operation would take time, and time is exactly what special forces usually try to avoid. Extracting or diluting the material would require troops to remain on site long enough for Iranian forces to respond, so it would be a high-risk, high-reward operation. Other missions would be faster but also less decisive. Special forces could strike research facilities tied to Iran's nuclear program or sabotage factories connected to missile and drone production. These raids might slow Iran's military programs, but they wouldn't eliminate them. Iran's industrial networks are widely dispersed, and destroying one facility rarely shuts down the entire system. Assassinations of senior military commanders are another possibility, but Iran has a decentralized defense doctrine in which the IRGC is divided into 31 units, each commanded by a brigadier general. The units operate autonomously without approval from the central command in Tehran. So, removing individual leaders would cause disruption, but it wouldn't stop the country from launching missiles or drones. There is also the possibility of working with opposition groups inside Iran. Special forces might attempt to organize Kurdish militias or support underground networks in major cities. However, building an insurgency is not something that happens overnight. It takes years of preparation and depends on local political conditions that outsiders cannot easily control. Even if any of these operations succeeded tactically, they would carry political risk at home. The capture or death of American Special Operations troops would quickly become a national story. Washington still remembers the failed 1980 hostage rescue mission in Iran, Operation Desert Claw, which collapsed in the desert and helped doom Jimmy Carter's presidency. Any administration considering covert operations inside Iran knows how quickly a failed raid can turn into a political crisis. If Washington wants to escalate the war without committing to a full-scale invasion, the next step would likely involve limited territorial operations. Instead of trying to push deep into Iran, the United States could attempt to seize specific targets along the country's coastline or on nearby islands. Operations like these would likely fall to the US Marines. Their expeditionary units specialize in launching swift assaults along hostile coastlines. These forces operate from amphibious assault ships, using helicopters, landing craft, and tilt-rotor aircraft to move troops quickly onto contested territory. That capability is one reason the Pentagon has ordered 2 Marine expeditionary units, numbering roughly 4,400 Marines, to move toward the Persian Gulf to reinforce its military presence. However, this deployment does not necessarily mean an invasion is imminent. What it does provide is the ability to launch limited operations against Iran's coastal infrastructure if the conflict continues to widen. The most obvious targets would lie near the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's economy depends heavily on oil exports, and several islands and ports play an essential role in that system. In theory, the US could try to capture them. Islands such as Karg, Kish, and Keshem sit near crucial shipping routes. Taking control of these locations could give American forces greater leverage over the traffic in the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. Marine expeditionary units operating with US carrier strike groups or airborne units could be used for such missions. On the flip side, Iran maintains a dispersed network of radar installations, missile batteries, and naval facilities along the nearby coastline, which allows it to monitor and target shipping traffic through the narrow waterway. US airstrikes may damage some of these sites, but the network itself is designed to survive bombardment through redundancy and mobility. Seizing or disabling key positions, particularly the islands of Abu Musa, Greater Tunb, and Lesser Tunb, and the coastal bases near Bandar Abbas could temporarily weaken Tehran's ability to interfere with one of the world's most important energy corridors. That is exactly the type of mission Marine expeditionary units are built to carry out. Another potential objective would be Iran's oil export infrastructure. Karg Island, which handles the overwhelming majority of the country's crude shipments, has already been struck by American air power. US forces recently destroyed dozens of military installations on the island, targeting missile storage sites and naval mine facilities. But the energy infrastructure itself was deliberately left intact. That restraint leaves Washington with a powerful escalation option. If the war continues to widen, Trump could still choose to cripple Iran's export hub either through further airstrikes or by temporarily seizing the island. Beyond that, even more ambitious options have recently come into view. American forces could attempt to seize a major port such as Bandar Abbas or Chabahar, both of which are vital to Iran's maritime trade. Even the threat of a landing near large coastal cities could force Tehran to divert military forces away from other parts of the conflict. But amphibious assaults are among the most difficult operations in warfare. The United States has conducted landings in places like Panama in 1989, Beirut in 1958, and Haiti in 1994, but these were unopposed landings, meaning they were conducted without hostile fire. The last time America attempted a truly contested landing against a defended coastline was during the Korean War in 1950. Doing so today would expose landing forces to drones, anti-ship missiles, coastal defenses, and artillery. Even if the initial assault succeeded, American troops could quickly find themselves fighting in dense urban areas where many of their technological advantages begin to fade. Moreover, the geography and distance of such an operation favor Tehran. Iranian forces would be operating close to their own bases, supply lines, and missile systems, while American troops would depend on ships and regional bases that could themselves become targets. For that reason, focusing on Iran's isolated islands is a far more manageable objective than the large coastal cities. Yet perhaps the hardest question of all is what happens after. Capturing territory is one thing, holding it and eventually getting out is something else entirely. The final option, and the most dramatic one, would be a full-scale invasion. One aimed either at dismantling Iran's conventional military forces or bringing down the Islamic Republic altogether. But an operation of this scale would come at an enormous cost. For comparison, the invasion of Iraq in 2003 required more than 6 months to assemble around 200,000 soldiers in the region. Iran, however, is larger in size and population and is more mountainous, so the required number of troops and resources would be many times that of the Iraqi experience. The United States would also need regional support. Neighboring countries would have to host American troops and allow supply lines to run through their territory. Yet, few governments appear to have an appetite for total war. Then, there is the political challenge at home. A war of this scale would require massive funding and long-term commitment. Under US law, Congress would almost certainly need to approve such an operation. Without broad public support, sustaining a prolonged ground war would be extremely difficult. Fortunately, we're not there yet. A full-scale invasion is unlikely. Only a major economic or military blow from Iran would be enough to push public opinion toward a ground war. Assuming that obstacles such as funding, mobilization, popular support, and regional logistics were overcome, Washington could then begin assembling the forces required for a full-scale invasion. This would likely involve a buildup of hundreds of thousands of troops, with the initial phase focusing on amphibious landings along Iran's southern coast, and a push toward major cities and the oil-rich province of Khuzestan. American forces could then attempt to weaken the Iranian military while supporting local opposition groups, similar to the strategy used in Afghanistan in 2001. Or they might attempt a direct advance toward Tehran, as they did with Baghdad 2 years later. Either way, a full-scale invasion of Iran would be nothing short of a strategic disaster. There would be no quick victory. It would likely unfold over months or years, especially if the United States relied on proxy forces rather than committing to a direct advance into the Iranian interior. And even then, victory on the battlefield would only mark the beginning of a far longer phase. Iran's population is large, its terrain is difficult, and stabilizing the country could tie down American forces for years, if not decades. All it would do is drain American resources away from Europe and Asia. And when a superpower is busy in one theater, its rivals rehearse in another. I've been your host, Shervan from Caspian Report. If you enjoy these videos, consider supporting the channel on Patreon and click the bell icon so the next one doesn't slip past you. Thank you for your time and Saul.
Горячо приветствую ваш ответ в нашу страну.
To begin with Trey Yanks, who is live in Tel Aviv as sirens just went off moments ago. Hi, Trey.
Yeah, Todd, Carly, good morning. Right now in the distance, we can hear a number of small explosions, an indication that the Iranians launched yet another missile with a cluster munition on top, raining those bomblets down on the population below. This was the second attack in just 2 minutes that took place, one targeting the northern city of Haifa and the other central Israel. As Operation Epic Fury grinds on, there is now talk of diplomacy across the Middle East. We understand that Egypt, Pakistan, and Turkey are reportedly taking the lead in mediating as Gulf countries continue to come under Iranian attack. Tuesday, President Trump said Iran had given him a present worth a tremendous amount of money. He didn't elaborate on what the gift was, but said it's a sign they're dealing with the right people. As for the framework of the current negotiations, here's what President Trump had to say.
It all starts with they cannot have a nuclear weapon. Just, I said yesterday, they said, what are the top 10? I said, well, number 1, 2, and 3 is they can't have a nuclear weapon. And they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. And we're talking about that. And I don't want to say in advance, but they've agreed they will never have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed to that.
Iranian officials are reportedly worried that the United States is buying time before more intense operations. But the president has indicated Vice President J.D. Vance would participate in the talks aimed at ending the war. U.S. and Israeli strikes have continued over the past 24 hours, putting new pressure on the Iranian regime. And overnight, Iran launched more barrages of ballistic missiles toward Israel. One of the cluster munitions landed in a religious community just outside of Tel Aviv, wounding at least 9 people.
The Iranians plan to launch hundreds of missiles towards Israel on the first day of the operation. They fired fewer than 100 on the first day and half that amount on the second day. We disrupted these intentions and continue to disrupt them. The number of launches decreased very quickly. The average is roughly about 10 missiles per day. The regime tries to concentrate its efforts every few days and launch more broadly, mainly towards population centers.
Now, Todd, Carly, we understand there are a number of impacts from that last Iranian attack against Israel. First responders are now rushing to the scenes to determine if anyone was injured. Guys?
Yeah, the war clearly continues as the potential for talks is being raised for the first time. Trey, live for us in Tel Aviv. Trey Yanks, we thank you so much. Let's bring in former Army Black Hawk helicopter pilot, battalion commander, and international military strategist, Lieutenant Colonel Darren Gobb. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. Do you believe that Iran has been weakened enough by this military campaign that we have reached maximum leverage so that we can enter into these talks?
Yeah, good morning, Carly. I think they've been significantly weakened into the point where they could want to enter these talks out of self-preservation because they know based on our current actions and, of course, how Israel has operated since October 7th massacre, then that we're going to continue with negotiations. We're going to continue to talk to them the best we can. However, what we're not going to do is cease operations or go into ceasefires in order to allow them to rebuild or take a break. I certainly hope that they take this opportunity to reach a meaningful deal potentially that could end the hostilities. But Iran is typically not a very trustworthy player in this arena. So we'll see how it plays out, but they have lost a significant amount of military capability and leverage themselves while we just continue to build our own.
Yeah, so to that point, on the one hand, we're talking about diplomacy, but on the other, the Pentagon has deployed between 2,000 and 3,000 soldiers from the 82nd Airborne that are expected to arrive in the region on Friday, which coincides with President Trump's deadline for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. If that doesn't happen, if the strait does not open on Friday, what would their mission be?
Difficult to tell with the formation of that size. It's not as many people as a lot of folks would think when it comes to a military formation that can hold a lot of ground. With them, I can see something along the lines of a use for them on controlling some area on Kharg Island, or some of the smaller islands in the Strait of Hormuz that are strategically located to allow ships to flow through there, but prevent land use for things like drones, smaller missiles, or other things that might interdict oil shipping and ships that try to go through there and increase their risk. So I don't see them doing something rather large. It's not that many people, but the 82nd is extraordinarily capable and flexible with doing a number of missions.
Yeah, would one of those missions be boots on the ground?
I certainly hope not, but commanders like to have options, and they don't want to take something off the table if they don't have to. So having them in the area could mean they're just looking for another point of leverage to be able to say, hey, we're ready to move if we have to. But if necessary, I think their mission would be very limited in scope and in time.
Yeah, that's a great point. And we saw the troop build up in the lead up to the strikes beginning, and this could be along the similar vein of that, and adding more troops and saying this is what we could do. Now let's come to the negotiating table. The president also said yesterday that Iran gave the U.S. a present worth a tremendous amount of money having to do with oil in the Strait of Hormuz. Do you have any thoughts on what he could have been referring to?
Yeah, that's a difficult one, and I'm sure it's why he's holding it close. But it could be as simple as that we're opening it back up to, I guess what they describe as hostile nations again, be able to move their oil through there. But it could just be something that none of us are anticipating, that they're trying to use to regain some of their own leverage against us in these negotiations also, and put something on the table right away. So it's hard to tell right now what exactly that could be. There's a number of.
It was quite the soundbite, a tremendous amount of money and a present that was sent on Monday and arrived on Tuesday. Finally, I think another question that needs to be asked is what the ultimate goal would be. If we do enter in these diplomatic talks, would the most positive outcome be for the Iranian people to still rise up for total regime control? Or are we working with a group of people now where, not just in the immediate days, but for years to come, the United States could work with?
I think both of those are possibilities, and I think in the best case outcomes, I don't want to be naive and think that the Iranian people rise